There is a threshold your body crosses every night. Invisible, soundless, and more carefully designed than anything human hands have ever built. Tonight, we are going to cross it together, slowly, and learn exactly what happens when you finally sink. Wherever you are right now, perhaps already lying down, perhaps feeling the familiar heaviness beginning to gather at the edges of your thoughts. You are closer to that threshold than you know. We are going to drift through 100 science facts about deep sleep, from the first chemical signal your brain releases as darkness falls, to the silent cellular repair happening in the deepest hours of night, to the ancient biological rhythms that have guided living things toward rest for hundreds of millions of years. These quiet journeys into the science of sleep gather curious minds into a community of peaceful thinkers. A gentle like, subscribe, or quiet share with someone who needs rest creates a pathway for more sleepy souls to find this space. One sleepy soul at a time. Your presence here tonight means more than you know. Settle into wherever you are resting now. Let your shoulders drop just slightly. Let your jaw unclench. You do not need to memorize any of this. You do not need to stay awake. These facts will find you whether your eyes are open or closed, whether you hear every word or only the softest edges of them. Let your body feel the permission to be exactly as heavy as it wants to be. Like something warm and slow is spreading from the center of your chest outward, filling every quiet corner of you. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You are resting at the edge of the most ancient process your body knows. Let your mind grow soft with the science of letting go. And now we begin. Deep sleep is not simply the absence of waking. It is an active, carefully orchestrated, biological state that your brain works hard to create. Scientists divide sleep into two major categories: rapid eye movement, sleep, or REM, and non-rapid eye movement sleep, or NREM. Deep sleep belongs to the NREM family, and it sits at the lowest, most restorative point on the sleep spectrum. During deep sleep, your brain produces slow, rolling electrical waves called delta waves, measuring between 0.5 and 4 cycles per second. These waves are the slowest your brain generates while you are still alive. They signal a level of neural quiet that waking life almost never reaches. Deep sleep is not emptiness. It is a different kind of fullness. Sleep scientists organize the night into a series of repeating cycles, each lasting roughly 90 minutes. Within each cycle, your brain moves through lighter NREM stages before descending into deep sleep, then briefly surfacing toward REM. Early in the night, these deep sleep periods are longest, sometimes lasting 40 to 60 minutes in the first cycle alone. As the night progresses, deep sleep stages shorten, and REM periods grow longer. This architecture is not random. It reflects the brain's careful triage of what your body needs most urgently, front-loading the most restorative work into the first half of the night. The scientific name for the deepest stage of sleep is slow-wave sleep, sometimes also called N3 in modern sleep staging systems. Earlier classification systems called it stages 3 and 4. But researchers simplified this in 2007 when the American Academy of Sleep Medicine updated its guidelines. Slow-wave sleep is defined by the presence of those delta waves in at least 20% of each 30-second measurement window recorded during sleep studies. The name slow-wave sleep is beautifully descriptive. Your brain, so fast and busy while you are awake, simply slows. Your brain's electrical activity during deep sleep looks almost like a tide coming in as you descend from lighter sleep. The fast, jagged patterns of wakefulness, the beta waves, and the alert gamma rhythms gradually flatten and synchronize. Millions of neurons begin firing together in coordinated waves rather than in the rapid, independent bursts of conscious thought. This synchronization is now understood to be one of the primary mechanisms by which the brain clears metabolic waste. When neurons fire in unison, their slow oscillations appear to drive the movement of cerebrospinal fluid through microscopic channels in the brain. It is a kind of neural tide, washing through the structures of thought. The system responsible for clearing waste from the sleeping brain was formally described in 2012 by researchers at the University of Rochester. They named it the glymphatic system, a portmanteau of glial cells and lymphatic system. The glymphatic system relies on a network of star-shaped cells called astrocytes, whose channels along blood vessels allow cerebrospinal fluid to move through the brain tissue during deep sleep. A series of coordinated biological changes, including shifts in blood vessel tone and synchronized neural oscillations, appear to drive this fluid movement far more effectively than during wakefulness. Research published in 2024 and 2025 has identified a small cluster of neurons deep in the brainstem, called the locus coeruleus, as a key conductor of this nightly cleaning rhythm. Much of the clearest evidence comes from animal studies, though recent human neuroimaging work is beginning to confirm that similar patterns of cerebrospinal fluid movement occur during sleep in people as well. Among the substances cleared during sleep is beta amyloid, a protein fragment associated with the plaques found in the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease. Multiple studies, including research published in journals such as Nature and Science over the past several years, have consistently found that even a single night of disrupted sleep leads to measurably higher beta amyloid levels in the brain the following morning. The relationship between sleep quality and long-term brain health has grown stronger in the research literature with each passing year. Deep sleep, it appears, is not merely rest. It may be one of the brain's most important defenses. Your body temperature drops during deep sleep. And this is not accidental. In the hours before sleep begins, your core body temperature naturally falls by 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit. As part of the preparation for rest, this cooling is driven by the hypothalamus, a small but remarkably powerful structure at the base of your brain that regulates both temperature and sleep-wake timing. The temperature drop reduces metabolic demand, slows heart rate, and creates conditions in which the brain can shift into its restorative slow-wave state. The reason a cool bedroom tends to improve sleep quality is partly because it supports this natural cooling process. Your body is already trying to find that temperature. A cool room simply helps it get there. A hormone called adenosine plays a central role in why deep sleep feels so necessary after a long day. Adenosine is a byproduct of neural activity. Every time your brain works, adenosine accumulates in the fluid surrounding your neurons. The longer you are awake, the more adenosine builds up, and the stronger your drive toward sleep becomes. This is called sleep pressure, or homeostatic sleep drive. Caffeine works by temporarily blocking adenosine receptors, which is why it makes you feel more alert. But it does not clear the adenosine itself. During deep sleep, adenosine levels fall significantly, which is why waking after a good night of restorative sleep often carries that particular feeling of lightness and clarity. The hormone most associated with deep sleep is growth hormone, released in a powerful pulse during the first and largest slow-wave sleep period of the night. In adults, this single release often accounts for the majority of the day's total growth hormone output, despite its name. Growth hormone in adults serves primarily as a repair and restoration signal. It stimulates protein synthesis, supports immune function, promotes fat metabolism, and aids in the recovery of muscles and tissues. The popular idea that athletes and bodybuilders need more sleep is grounded in this biology. The repair that exercise demands happens largely during this hormonal window, deep in the first 90-minute cycle of the night. So already, 10 facts in, the answer to tonight's central question is beginning to take shape. What makes you sink into deep sleep? Part of the answer is chemical. Adenosine accumulating, growth hormone preparing, temperature falling. Part of it is electrical. Neurons synchronizing into those slow rolling waves. And part of it is something older and more fundamental. A biological imperative, shared across nearly every living thing that has a brain. To pause, to repair, to clear, and to begin again. Deep sleep is not something that happens to you by chance. Your body has been building toward it since the moment you woke up this morning. The circadian rhythm, your internal biological clock, works in close partnership with sleep pressure to determine when and how deeply you sleep. The circadian system is governed by a tiny cluster of roughly 20,000 neurons in the hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This structure is so attuned to light that even a few photons reaching your retina can shift its timing by minutes. The circadian clock does not simply track time, it actively prepares your body for each phase of the day-night cycle, warming you in the morning, cooling you in the evening, suppressing alertness after dark, and coordinating the release of hormones that make deep sleep possible. Light is the most powerful external regulator of your circadian clock. The discovery of a third type of photoreceptor in the mammalian eye, announced in 2002 and confirmed in the human retina in the years that followed, fundamentally changed how scientists understand the relationship between light and sleep. These cells, called intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, are most sensitive to blue wavelength light, the kind emitted by the sky at midday, and by screens after dark. They send signals directly to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, helping calibrate the internal clock. Exposure to bright light in the morning advances the clock and deepens nighttime sleep. Exposure to blue light at night delays it, pushing the onset of deep sleep later into the night. Melatonin is often misunderstood as a sleep hormone, but it is more accurately described as a darkness signal. Your brain's pineal gland begins releasing melatonin roughly 2 hours before your habitual bedtime, not in response to fatigue, but in response to the fading of light. Melatonin does not cause sleep directly. Instead, it communicates to the rest of the body that darkness has arrived and that sleep should be prepared for. It lowers core body temperature, reduces alertness, and helps synchronize the many peripheral clocks distributed throughout your organs. Melatonin reaches peak concentration in the bloodstream in the early morning hours, typically between 2 and 4 in the morning, which corresponds with the body's deepest sleep phase. In those who sleep at conventional times, the relationship between your circadian rhythm and your sleep pressure is sometimes compared to two forces working in opposition. Sleep pressure rises steadily throughout the day. The circadian system, meanwhile, sends alerting signals that counteract this pressure, keeping you functional even as adenosine accumulates. This is why many people experience a second wind of energy in the early evening. Even after a full day, the circadian system is sending one last alerting push before it withdraws. When that signal fades, usually between 9 and 11 at night, for most adults, sleep pressure wins. The descent begins, and for those aligned with their natural timing, the descent into deep sleep can happen within minutes of lying down. Sleep deprivation produces a phenomenon researchers call sleep rebound, a dramatic increase in the proportion of slow-wave sleep on the recovery night. If you have been deprived of deep sleep for even one night, your brain will prioritize its recovery on the next opportunity, generating more intense and prolonged delta wave activity than on a typical night. This rebound effect demonstrates that deep sleep is tracked separately from total sleep time. The brain keeps what scientists call a slow-wave sleep debt, and it will work to repay it. Your body knows what it has missed. It counts the hours of deep sleep, the way a careful accountant tracks what is owed. The thalamus, a walnut-shaped structure deep in the center of your brain, acts as a sensory gatekeeper during deep sleep. In waking life, the thalamus routes sensory information from the body and environment to the appropriate areas of the cortex. But as you descend into slow-wave sleep, the thalamus generates a particular kind of electrical activity called sleep spindles, brief bursts of synchronized neural oscillation lasting roughly half a second. These spindles appear to function as a sensory buffer, temporarily blocking incoming signals from reaching the sleeping cortex. This is why a sleeping person can remain undisturbed by moderate noise. The thalamus is actively protecting the sleeping brain from interruption. Sleep spindles were first recorded in human electroencephalograms, or EEGs, in the 1930s. For decades, they were observed and catalogued, but their function remained mysterious. More recent research, particularly work published between 2015 and 2025, has revealed that sleep spindles are closely linked to memory consolidation, specifically the transfer of newly learned information from the hippocampus, where short-term memories are stored, to the cortex, where long-term memories are kept. The number and density of sleep spindles a person generates in a given night predicts how well they will remember information learned the previous day. Your sleeping brain is not idle. It is filing. The hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped structure in the medial temporal lobe, is deeply involved in the memory work of deep sleep during the day. The hippocampus rapidly encodes new experiences and information in a temporary, high-resolution format, but this storage capacity is limited. During slow-wave sleep, the hippocampus replays these recent memories in compressed, fast-forward sequences, sending them to the cortex for long-term integration. This process, called memory consolidation or systems consolidation, means that a night of deep sleep after learning something new can improve recall by 20 to 40% compared to staying awake. The expression, "sleep on it," turns out to be neurologically sound advice. The memory replay during deep sleep is not random. Studies using brain imaging and implanted electrodes have shown that the hippocampus selectively replays memories that the brain has tagged as significant experiences associated with strong emotion, novelty, or repeated exposure. Trivial events are replayed with less frequency and fade more quickly. This selection process appears to be at least partly regulated by the slow oscillations of deep sleep itself, which create windows of neural excitability during which hippocampal cortical communication is optimal. Sleep, in this sense, is an editorial process. It decides what you remember and how clearly. There is a concept in sleep research called targeted memory reactivation, and it has produced some of the most fascinating sleep science findings of the past decade. Researchers have shown that if a specific sound or scent is paired with learning during the day and then gently presented again during slow-wave sleep, the associated memory is replayed with greater intensity and retained more precisely. In one series of experiments, participants who learned the location of objects on a grid while hearing particular sounds recalled those locations significantly better when the sounds were softly played during their subsequent deep sleep. The sleeping brain is not simply processing what it has stored. It can be guided gently, carefully, toward particular memories. Slow-wave sleep also plays a role in emotional regulation that researchers are only beginning to fully understand. During REM sleep, emotional memories are processed in the presence of reduced levels of norepinephrine, a stress-associated neurotransmitter, but slow-wave sleep appears to prepare the emotional landscape for this REM processing, gradually reducing the physiological arousal associated with difficult memories. Some researchers describe the relationship between deep sleep and emotional health as analogous to an overnight therapy session. Studies show that people who obtain less slow-wave sleep tend to exhibit heightened emotional reactivity the following day, lower frustration tolerance, and reduced capacity for flexible thinking. The immune system and deep sleep are linked in ways that researchers have been mapping with increasing precision. Several key components of the immune response are upregulated during slow-wave sleep. Cytokines, small signaling proteins that coordinate the immune response, are released in greater quantities during deep sleep. Natural killer cell activity increases. T-cell function is enhanced. One careful study, using wristband sleep sensors, found that individuals sleeping 5 to 6 hours were roughly 4 times more likely to develop a cold after exposure to the rhinovirus, compared to those sleeping more than 7 hours. Those sleeping fewer than 5 hours showed a similarly elevated risk. Deep sleep and immune resilience, it appears, are written in the same quiet language. There is a temperature gradient. Within sleep itself, your core body temperature continues to fall as you descend from light NREM sleep into slow-wave sleep. Skin temperature simultaneously rises, particularly in the hands and feet, as blood redistributes from the body's core to its periphery. This peripheral warming is part of how the body dissipates internal heat. The warm, slightly flushed feeling of the hands and feet that some people notice as they fall asleep is a physiological signal of this heat redistribution process. Wearing warm socks to bed, counterintuitively, can accelerate sleep onset by facilitating this peripheral warming and supporting the core cooling that deep sleep requires. Heart rate during deep sleep falls to its lowest point in the 24-hour cycle. For most adults, This means a reduction of 10 to 30% below the resting daytime heart rate. Blood pressure also drops significantly, a phenomenon called the nocturnal dip, which cardiovascular researchers consider one of the most important protective effects of healthy sleep. People who fail to show this nocturnal blood pressure dip are at measurably higher risk for cardiovascular disease. The heart, during deep sleep, is not simply resting, it is recovering in a way that waking rest cannot replicate. The difference between lying quietly in bed and being in slow-wave sleep, from a cardiovascular standpoint, is substantial. And so, 25 facts in, the question begins to answer itself in layers. What makes you sink into deep sleep? The accumulation of adenosine, the withdrawal of the circadian alerting signal, the fall of core temperature, the rise of melatonin, the synchronization of millions of neurons into slow coordinated waves. And beneath all of these mechanisms, a deeper truth is emerging. Deep sleep is not a passive state that your body falls into. It is an active destination that your biology has been navigating toward all day. The science is only beginning to show us how ancient, how elaborate, and how essential this nightly descent truly is. Let's pause here and simply notice, right now, your brain is sorting through this day, deciding what matters, what can be set down. You don't need to help it. You don't need to remind it what to keep. It knows, the way it has always known, through every night of your life. Every cell in your body knows how to sleep. This is the most ancient thing your body does. You are not learning how to rest tonight. You are simply returning to it. Now we continue. The glial cells, most directly involved in the glymphatic system, are called astrocytes. These star-shaped cells surround blood vessels in the brain and form channels through which cerebrospinal fluid flows during sleep. Astrocytes have aquaporin-4 channels, essentially molecular water gates, embedded in their membranes. And these gates appear to control the flow of fluid through the glymphatic pathways. Research, published in the early 2020s, demonstrated that the orientation and density of these channels differs between brain regions, suggesting the glymphatic system has a sophisticated internal geography, directing cleaning fluid to areas of highest metabolic need. The sleeping brain is not simply washed, it is selectively irrigated. Recent research has begun to map the specific flow patterns of cerebrospinal fluid during slow-wave sleep with remarkable precision, using a technique called functional MRI combined with cardiac gating, synchronizing measurements with each heartbeat. Scientists have observed that cerebrospinal fluid pulses into the brain in waves, driven partly by the slow oscillations of neural activity and partly by the pulsing of blood vessels. Each delta wave, those slow electrical rolls that define deep sleep, appears to be accompanied by a corresponding pulse of cerebrospinal fluid moving through the brain's ventricles. The electrical and the hydraulic are synchronized. The brain waves and the fluid waves move together. Sleep spindles, those brief bursts of synchronized thalamic activity mentioned earlier, come in two varieties: slow spindles, centered around 12 cycles per second, and fast spindles, centered around 14 to 15 cycles per second. They originate in slightly different thalamic circuits and appear to serve different functions. Fast spindles are more strongly associated with hippocampal cortical memory transfer. Slow spindles appear more closely linked to emotional processing and sensory protection. The distinction is subtle, and researchers are still mapping the full functional picture. But it suggests that what looks like a simple feature of the sleeping brain's electrical activity is in fact a layered, purposeful system with multiple interacting roles, the slow oscillations that define deep sleep, those large, rhythmic delta waves, are generated primarily in the cortex itself. Rather than being imposed on it from below, the cortex alternates between two states during slow-wave sleep, an up state, in which neurons fire briefly and collectively, and a down state, in which neural activity falls nearly to silence. This on-off cycling happens roughly once per second. The up states correspond to the peaks of the delta wave, the down states to the troughs. Between each crest and trough, there is a moment of near-perfect neural quiet, a stillness that has no equivalent in the waking brain. It is perhaps the most peaceful state the brain can enter while still alive. By the middle decades of life, slow-wave sleep has often declined substantially from its youthful heights. Research in healthy adults found the proportion of slow-wave sleep falling from roughly 19% in early adulthood to around 3 or 4% by midlife. A shift that reflects genuine changes in how the brain generates its deepest rhythms. In older adults, slow-wave sleep tends to stabilize at this lower level. Though individual variation is considerable, what tends to change more noticeably after 60 is the coherence of these slow waves. They become more fragmented and localized, even when their overall proportion is similar. In young adults, slow waves travel across the entire cortex in coordinated sweeps. Over time, they grow quieter, smaller, and more regional, the brain's deep rhythm becoming, with the years, more intimate and less sweeping. The reduction of deep sleep in mid-adulthood is not simply a consequence of aging bodies sleeping less soundly. Research suggests it reflects a genuine reduction in the brain's capacity to generate slow oscillations, a change in the underlying neural machinery. Studies using high-density EEG recordings have shown that the scalp topography of slow waves shifts with age, becoming less widespread and less synchronized. In young adults, slow waves travel across the entire cortex in coordinated sweeps. In older adults, they are more fragmented and localized. Some researchers now propose that this fragmentation of slow wave activity may be an early marker of certain neurodegenerative changes, and that interventions that improve slow wave coherence may have broader benefits for brain health across the decades. There is growing scientific interest in whether slow-wave sleep can be enhanced or deepened through targeted interventions. One approach, called slow oscillation transcranial direct current stimulation, uses very gentle electrical currents applied through electrodes on the scalp to nudge the brain's own slow oscillations into greater synchrony. In research settings, this has produced modest but measurable improvements in overnight memory consolidation. Another approach involves auditory stimulation, playing very soft sounds timed to the up states of slow oscillations. Some studies have shown that precisely timed audio pulses, inaudible to the waking listener, can increase slow-wave activity and improve declarative memory. These techniques remain experimental, but they point toward a future in which the quality of deep sleep may be therapeutically improvable. Exercise is one of the most reliably documented natural enhancers of slow-wave sleep. Regular physical activity increases slow-wave sleep duration and intensity in most adults. The mechanism appears to involve multiple pathways. Exercise raises core body temperature, requiring more cooling during sleep, increases adenosine production, deepening sleep pressure, and may stimulate the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein associated with neural plasticity and slow wave generation. Timing matters. However, exercise completed 3 or more hours before bedtime tends to improve sleep. Exercise completed within an hour or two of bedtime can delay sleep onset in some people by maintaining elevated core temperature and heightened sympathetic nervous system activity. The relationship between diet and deep sleep is an area of active research. Several dietary patterns appear to influence slow-wave sleep quality. Diets high in saturated fat have been associated with reduced slow-wave sleep in some studies. Diets higher in fiber and plant-based foods have been associated with more time in deeper sleep stages. A meal high in simple carbohydrates close to bedtime may shorten the time it takes to fall asleep, but can also fragment sleep architecture in the latter half of the night, reducing the proportion of deep sleep in those later cycles. Researchers note that individual responses to dietary factors vary considerably, and no single food holds a simple answer. Certain naturally occurring compounds appear to support deep sleep through their influence on neurotransmitter systems. Magnesium, for example, is a mineral that modulates NMDA receptors, the same glutamate receptors involved in neural excitability during the upstates of slow-wave sleep. Low magnesium intake has been associated with poorer sleep quality in observational studies. Glycine, an amino acid found in collagen-rich foods, has been shown in small but carefully designed studies to reduce core body temperature slightly and improve subjective sleep quality. Tart cherry juice, a natural source of melatonin and tryptophan, has been associated with modest improvements in sleep duration and efficiency in older adults in several controlled trials. These are gentle, incremental effects, supporting players in the larger symphony of rest. Alcohol has long been misunderstood as a sleep aid. While it does suppress the central nervous system and can shorten the time it takes to fall asleep, it profoundly disrupts sleep architecture across the night. Alcohol suppresses REM sleep in the first half of the night. As it is metabolized in the second half, it produces a rebound effect that fragments sleep and often causes early morning waking. Most relevant to tonight's topic, alcohol measurably reduces slow-wave sleep duration and delta-wave amplitude. Even moderate alcohol consumption, 2 to 3 drinks, has been shown to reduce slow-wave sleep efficiency by 20 to 25% in controlled sleep laboratory studies. The sleep that alcohol allows is shallower and less restorative than the sleep the body would otherwise produce. Caffeine's half-life in the body is approximately 5 to 7 hours for most adults, though genetic variation in the enzyme CYP1A2 means some people metabolize it more than twice as quickly as others. For an average adult, a cup of coffee consumed at 2 in the afternoon still has half of its caffeine active in the bloodstream at 7 or 8 in the evening. Research, published in the mid-2020s, found that afternoon caffeine consumption measurably reduced slow-wave sleep duration compared to placebo, even when subjects reported no difficulty falling asleep. The caffeine had blocked enough adenosine accumulation during the critical pre-sleep window to reduce the depth of the subsequent slow-wave sleep. Stress is one of the most gentle disruptors of slow-wave sleep. Not dramatic in the moment, but steady and cumulative across the night. The primary stress hormone cortisol is directly antagonistic to deep sleep. Cortisol levels are normally lowest during the first half of the night, the period when slow-wave sleep is most abundant, and highest in the early morning hours. When the body prepares for waking, psychological stress or hyperarousal raises cortisol levels out of phase with this natural rhythm, creating a hormonal environment that is less welcoming to deep sleep. This is one reason why those carrying significant stress often find the night feels less restoring. A gentle reminder that the inner environment of sleep matters as much as its duration. There are specific brain regions that serve as gatekeepers of the transition from wakefulness into deep sleep. The ventrolateral preoptic area of the hypothalamus, known as the VLPO, is sometimes called the sleep switch. It contains neurons that release GABA, an inhibitory neurotransmitter, onto the wake-promoting circuits of the brain, effectively quieting them. As the VLPO becomes more active, the arousal circuits of the brainstem and hypothalamus are progressively silenced. This transition is not a single event but a cascade, a series of circuits going quiet in a specific order, each one removing another layer of waking awareness. The descent into deep sleep is a choreographed withdrawal. The bed and the bedroom themselves play a documented role in how quickly and deeply you sink into slow-wave sleep. Sleep researchers use the term sleep hygiene to describe the constellation of environmental and behavioral factors that support or undermine sleep architecture. Among the most evidence-supported, a consistent sleep and wake time, which anchors the circadian clock, a bedroom used primarily for sleep, which strengthens the learned association between bed and sleep, a room temperature between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit, which supports core body cooling and minimal light exposure in the hour before bed. These factors do not feel dramatic in the telling, but their cumulative effect on slow-wave sleep duration and quality is measurable and meaningful. The body learns from its environment. It learns when it is safe to go deep. You're still here, perhaps still listening, perhaps already drifting at the edges of these words. Take a slow breath. Notice how the facts have grown a little softer, a little more like quiet water than sharp light. We're moving through the science of deep sleep together. You and everyone listening in the quiet dark tonight. There's no rush, no destination, except the one your body is already finding. Let's continue. One of the most quietly remarkable things about slow-wave sleep is that it is not uniform across the brain. High-density EEG studies have revealed that different cortical regions can be in different sleep states simultaneously. Some areas generating slow waves, while adjacent areas show wake-like activity. This local sleep phenomenon means that sleep is not an all-or-nothing state, but something more like a slowly spreading condition, moving across the brain region by region. Researchers believe this regional variability may explain the occasionally dreamlike, semi-coherent quality of hypnagogic states, those moments on the threshold of sleep where the boundary between thought and image becomes blurry and beautiful. Sleep deprivation, even mild and chronic, produces what researchers call local sleep during waking hours when the brain is insufficiently rested. Small populations of neurons will briefly enter a sleep-like state, while the person is still technically awake and functioning. These microsleeps, lasting from a fraction of a second to a few seconds, produce measurable lapses in attention and reaction time. The affected person typically has no awareness of them. This phenomenon, sometimes called sleep intrusion, is now understood to be a major factor in the impaired cognitive performance associated with poor sleep. Not simply that the brain is tired, but that parts of it are briefly and invisibly asleep. There is a substance produced naturally in the human body that appears to be a direct chemical signal for slow-wave sleep. It is called delta sleep-inducing peptide, or DSCP, and it was first isolated from rabbit cerebrospinal fluid in the 1970s. DSIP is released during deep sleep and can, when administered experimentally, induce slow-wave sleep-like states. Its exact role in normal human sleep remains a subject of active investigation. It is one piece of a much larger chemical puzzle, but its existence points to something compelling. The body does not wait for sleep to arrive by accident. It manufactures specific molecular instructions that call the brain toward its deepest rest. Your muscles undergo a form of relaxation during deep sleep that has no precise waking equivalent. Muscle tone, the background electrical activity that keeps muscles slightly contracted even at rest, falls to near zero during slow-wave sleep. The jaw unclenches, the shoulders release, the muscles of the back and neck, which carry the postural tension of an entire day, go quiet. This muscular release is not simply pleasant, it is functionally significant. The lymphatic vessels that run through muscle tissue depend on muscle contraction to move lymph, and during the stillness of deep sleep, this movement slows. This is one reason that gentle movement throughout the day supports immune health. It keeps the lymphatic system active during the hours when the body is at rest. Pain perception changes significantly during deep sleep. Studies using functional brain imaging have shown that the cortical regions responsible for pain processing are less responsive to noxious stimuli during slow-wave sleep than during wakefulness or light sleep. This is partly due to the thalamic gating described earlier. The thalamus is blocking sensory signals broadly, and partly due to the reduced activity of the brain's pain-sensitizing circuits during deep sleep. People with chronic pain conditions often have disrupted slow-wave sleep, and the relationship appears to be bidirectional. Pain disrupts deep sleep, and reduced deep sleep amplifies pain sensitivity. The following day, improving slow-wave sleep is now considered a meaningful avenue in chronic pain support. Slow-wave sleep plays a role in glucose metabolism and insulin sensitivity that sleep researchers have only recently begun to quantify carefully. Studies in healthy volunteers subjected to selective slow-wave sleep deprivation using acoustic stimuli timed to suppress delta waves without fully waking the sleepers found that even 3 nights of disrupted slow-wave sleep produced measurable reductions in insulin sensitivity. The mechanism appears to involve the growth hormone pulse of deep sleep, which helps regulate glucose homeostasis. The metabolic consequences of poor deep sleep are quiet but considerable. A reminder that what happens in the night shapes the chemistry of the day that follows. The body's process of tissue repair is deeply intertwined with slow-wave sleep. During deep sleep, protein synthesis in muscle tissue increases, collagen production in skin and connective tissue rises. The inflammatory cytokines, released by the immune system during illness, peak during slow-wave sleep, which is why fever and illness make you sleepy. Your body is not simply resting, it is manufacturing. The materials of recovery are assembled in the small hours, in the deep quiet, while the rest of your experience is set aside. Deep sleep is when the body does its most careful rebuilding. Quietly, without your awareness or your effort, the skin is an organ that benefits directly from deep sleep's hormonal environment. Growth hormone stimulates the activity of fibroblasts, the cells that produce collagen and elastin. Reduced cortisol during deep sleep means less cortisol-induced collagen degradation. Increased blood flow to the skin during sleep delivers oxygen and nutrients to skin cells. The phrase beauty sleep is not merely metaphorical. Studies have found that people deprived of sleep are consistently rated as appearing less healthy and more fatigued by independent observers. And skin hydration and barrier function have been measured to be objectively lower after nights of disrupted sleep. There is an intriguing relationship between deep sleep and the brain's default mode network, a collection of interconnected brain regions that become active during unfocused, internally directed thought, mind-wandering, daydreaming, self-reflection. During wakefulness, the default mode network is one of the most energetically expensive systems in the brain. During deep sleep, it is among the most thoroughly quieted. Some sleep researchers propose that this quieting of self-referential thought is one of the mechanisms by which deep sleep reduces the emotional intensity of difficult memories. When the circuits of self-reflection go dark, the raw emotional charge of the day's experiences may be processed more neutrally, stripped of the narrative weight that waking self-consciousness attaches to them. Halfway through our journey tonight, and the answer to what makes you sink into deep sleep has grown richer with each layer. It is chemistry. Adenosine, melatonin, growth hormone, cortisol. It is electricity, delta waves, slow oscillations, up and down states. It is architecture, the sequence of cycles, the front-loading of slow-wave sleep in the early night, the thalamic gates that protect the sleeping cortex. And now we are seeing something more. Deep sleep is connected to nearly every system in the body, serving functions so varied and so fundamental that its absence touches everything: immunity, memory, pain, metabolism, skin, emotion, brain health. Deep sleep is not one thing your body needs. It may be the foundation from which everything else is made possible. Breathe slowly now. Every cell you have today will be replaced completely within 7 years. You are in the middle of a continuous renewal. Tonight is a part of that renewal. One quiet night in a long series of quiet nights that have, cell by cell, made you who you are. You don't need to watch it happen. It is already happening. And we continue. Sleep is not unique to humans. It appears to be one of the most ancient and conserved biological processes in the animal kingdom. Jellyfish, which have no brain at all, exhibit rest states that show behavioral hallmarks of sleep: reduced responsiveness, specific postures, and sleep rebound after deprivation. These are animals whose ancestors diverged from ours more than 500 million years ago. Whatever sleep is doing, it began before complexity, before brains, before the nervous systems that we recognize as our own. The molecular pathways that regulate sleep in a fruit fly share remarkable similarities with those in a human being. Deep rest, in one form or another, is written into the biology of life itself. Many species show slow wave-like states in their deepest sleep. Dolphins and some migratory birds exhibit a phenomenon called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, in which one hemisphere of the brain sleeps while the other remains awake. This allows them to surface for air, maintain position, or continue flying while still obtaining restorative sleep. Bottlenose dolphins in captivity have been observed keeping one eye open during sleep, monitoring the environment with the waking hemisphere. The existence of this adaptation demonstrates that slow-wave sleep is so valuable that evolution found ways to allow partial versions of it to occur even in contexts that would otherwise make it impossible. Great sperm whales sleep in a particularly unusual way. They drift motionless in vertical positions just below the surface of the ocean for periods of 10 to 15 minutes. Researchers discovered this behavior in 2008, when a research vessel inadvertently sailed into a group of sperm whales who were so deeply asleep that they did not respond to the approaching ship. Brain imaging studies are not possible in wild sperm whales, but behavioral evidence suggests these brief vertical rest periods may represent the whale equivalent of deep sleep, intense, brief, and apparently sufficient. The largest brained animals on Earth take the smallest naps. There is something called the two-process model of sleep regulation, formalized by Alexander Borbley in 1982, that remains one of the most enduring frameworks in sleep science. It describes sleep as the result of two interacting processes. Process S, homeostatic sleep drive, the accumulation of adenosine and related substances that builds with wakefulness and dissipates during sleep. And process C, circadian timing, the biological clock that determines when sleep is promoted and when wakefulness is supported. The depth and quality of slow-wave sleep depends on both processes. When process S is high and process C is permitting sleep, the conditions for deep, restorative slow-wave sleep are optimal. This model is deceptively simple and remarkably predictive. There are genes that regulate the propensity for deep sleep, and individual differences in slow-wave sleep intensity are substantially heritable. Twin studies have shown that the amount of time spent in slow-wave sleep and the amplitude of slow oscillations are more similar between identical twins than between fraternal twins. Variants in genes involved in adenosine metabolism, circadian regulation, and glutamate signaling have all been associated with differences in slow-wave sleep characteristics. Some people are constitutionally inclined toward deeper, more intense, slow-wave sleep. Others are constitutionally lighter sleepers. Neither is a character judgment. Both are reflections of the quiet instructions written into the genome at the very beginning. There is a rare and severe condition called fatal familial insomnia, caused by a mutation in the PRNP gene, in which the progressive inability to enter deep sleep is accompanied by profound physical and cognitive change. It is one of a family of prion diseases, conditions in which misfolded proteins spread through brain tissue. In fatal familial insomnia, the thalamic structures that generate sleep spindles and slow oscillations are preferentially affected, mercifully rare. It offers a quiet reminder of how deeply woven into life the capacity for deep sleep truly is, and why the body protects it with such care. The timing of meals influences the timing of sleep in ways that researchers are still mapping. The circadian clocks in peripheral organs, liver, gut, muscle, are entrained not only by light, but by feeding patterns. Eating late at night can send conflicting signals to these peripheral clocks, misaligning them with the brain's master clock. This internal desynchrony has been associated with fragmented sleep and reduced slow-wave sleep efficiency in shift workers and in experimental subjects whose meal timing was deliberately delayed. The body's organs coordinate with each other during deep sleep in ways that depend on all of them being in quiet agreement about what time it is. The gut microbiome, the vast community of bacteria, archaea, and fungi living in the digestive tract, has bidirectional relationships with sleep quality. Research published in the early and mid-2020s has found that individuals with more diverse microbiomes tend to show better sleep quality in observational studies. Conversely, disrupted sleep appears to alter microbiome composition within days. The pathways linking gut microbiome to sleep include serotonin synthesis. Approximately 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut, as well as the production of short-chain fatty acids that influence brain function and circadian timing. The gut and the sleeping brain are in constant, quiet conversation. Napping is a genuinely layered subject from a sleep science perspective. A short nap of 10 to 20 minutes, taken in early afternoon, can improve alertness, mood, and cognitive performance without significantly affecting nighttime slow-wave sleep. These short naps typically involve light NREM sleep, a longer nap of 60 to 90 minutes. However, may include slow-wave sleep and can meaningfully reduce the homeostatic sleep pressure that would otherwise contribute to a deeper and longer first slow-wave sleep period that night. In populations where deep nighttime sleep is insufficient, older adults, shift workers, new parents, strategic napping can partially compensate for lost slow-wave sleep. For those whose nighttime sleep is intact, a long afternoon nap may simply borrow a little from the night's depth. The transition into slow-wave sleep is often accompanied by a hypnic jerk, that sudden involuntary muscle contraction that startles you just as you're drifting off. Hypnic jerks are experienced by the majority of people and are considered a normal variant of sleep physiology. Several explanations have been proposed. One is that the hypnic jerk is an evolutionary relic, a reflex that prevented sleeping ancestors from falling from elevated resting places. Another is that it reflects the brain misinterpreting the sudden loss of muscle tone as a fall and generating a corrective movement. A third is simply that it is a byproduct of the asynchronous neural shutdown that occurs as different brain regions transition into sleep at different rates. Whatever its origin, the hypnic jerk is one of the last outposts of waking neurology. The body's small, involuntary farewell to consciousness. Body position influences the quality and architecture of sleep in ways that are sometimes underappreciated. Sleeping on the side, the lateral position, has been associated with more efficient glymphatic clearance in animal models compared to sleeping on the back or stomach. The cerebrospinal fluid dynamics appear to be optimized in lateral sleep, at least in rodents. And while direct human evidence is more limited, some researchers have proposed that the prevalence of lateral sleeping in humans across cultures may partly reflect a preference for a position that supports the brain's nightly cleaning process. The body, it seems, has quiet opinions about how best to rest. The sounds of the environment affect deep sleep in ways that are often subtle and cumulative. A single loud noise in the night, a car alarm, a door, may not be consciously registered, but it can produce a brief arousal on the EEG, shift the brain from deep to lighter sleep. and fragment the architecture of the night's slow-wave sleep periods, even without waking the sleeper. Repeated low-level noise exposure across the night has been associated with reduced slow-wave sleep duration in urban residents. Even those who report not being disturbed by noise, the sleeping thalamus is protective, but not impermeable, consistent. Intrusive sounds gradually erode the sleep they appear to leave intact. There is a concept called social jet lag, which describes the misalignment between the body's natural circadian preferences and the socially imposed schedule of work and school. People whose natural sleep timing is later than their required wake time accumulate sleep debt across the working week and attempt to recover it on weekends. This pattern produces biological rhythms that are shifted by 2 or more hours twice each week, a form of chronic transient time zone change. Social jet lag is associated with poorer, slow-wave sleep quality, higher rates of metabolic disruption, increased risk of low mood, and reduced cognitive performance. Tens of millions of people, particularly adolescents and evening chronotypes, live with it chronically and without having chosen it. The sleeping brain does not process language in the same way the waking brain does, but it is not entirely deaf to meaning. Studies have shown that the sleeping brain can distinguish between words it was previously asked to respond to and similar words it was not, even during NREM sleep, and will show brief arousal signatures on EEG in response to the sleeper's own name. The brain during deep sleep is maintaining a narrow, filtered, attentional channel, monitoring the environment for information of personal relevance while blocking everything else. This is believed to be one of the reasons that a parent can sleep through traffic noise, but wake immediately to a child's cry. The relationship between deep sleep and the experience of time is curious and not fully understood. Most people, when woken from slow-wave sleep, have little or no subjective sense of how much time has passed. In light NREM sleep and REM sleep, there is often some internal sense of duration. In deep sleep, this temporal awareness collapses. Researchers have speculated that this is because the slow oscillations of deep sleep suppress the neural activity that underlies our ordinary sense of time passing. In slow-wave sleep, there is no narrative of experience, no thread of events, no sense of now moving into next. There is, in the deepest and most literal sense, no story, only rest. There is ongoing scientific interest in the relationship between deep sleep and creativity. A growing body of research suggests that REM sleep is more strongly associated with the flexible, associative thinking, underlying creative insight, but slow-wave sleep appears to play a complementary role, consolidating the individual elements of experience and knowledge that REM sleep then recombines in novel ways. Some researchers describe the two sleep stages as working in sequence. Slow-wave sleep files the information. REM sleep plays with it. A night of good sleep, with healthy proportions of both stages, may be the complete creative cycle, the encoding, the sorting, and the synthesis, all accomplished in the dark. Temperature manipulation is one of the most reliable ways to support slow-wave sleep. Warming the soles of the feet before sleep, using a mildly heated foot bath or warm socks, has been shown to accelerate sleep onset and increase slow-wave sleep duration in older adults, who often have impaired peripheral vasodilation and consequently more difficulty with the nocturnal heat redistribution that supports deep sleep warming the body slightly before bed, then allowing it to cool, gently mirrors the natural pre-sleep temperature curve. This is why a warm bath or shower, taken about 90 minutes before bedtime, is one of the most evidence-supported sleep hygiene recommendations available. Weighted blankets, which have become widely used as sleep aids, have a modest evidence base supporting their effects on sleep quality, particularly in individuals with anxiety or sensory processing differences. The proposed mechanism involves deep pressure stimulation, activating the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and restore counterpart to the stress-activating sympathetic system. Some studies have found that weighted blanket use is associated with increases in self-reported sleep quality and reductions in nighttime cortisol. The evidence specific to slow-wave sleep enhancement is limited and still developing, but the physiological rationale that reducing sympathetic arousal may allow deeper slow-wave sleep is biologically coherent. The experience of waking from deep sleep feels qualitatively different from waking at other sleep stages. Waking from slow-wave sleep often produces a state of grogginess and disorientation called sleep inertia, which can last from several minutes to nearly an hour. During sleep inertia, cognitive performance on tests of reaction time, decision-making, and working memory is measurably reduced. This reflects the fact that the brain has been drawn out of its deepest state before its natural moment of surfacing, and certain prefrontal regions that support executive function are slow to return to full wakefulness. Sleep inertia is more noticeable when waking occurs during deep, slow-wave sleep than at lighter sleep stages. There is a compound produced in the brain called phosphatidylserine that has been studied in the context of cortisol regulation and sleep quality. Phosphatidylserine is a phospholipid found in high concentrations in neural cell membranes, and it appears to blunt the cortisol response to stress in some studies. A few small trials have examined whether phosphatidylserine supplementation might improve slow-wave sleep in stressed populations by reducing cortisol's disruption of sleep architecture. The evidence remains preliminary, and the effect size is modest. A small, quiet piece of a much larger puzzle that researchers are still assembling. One of the most intimate things the sleeping brain does during slow-wave sleep is strengthen the bonds between neurons that encode important information. This process, called synaptic consolidation, involves the gradual stabilization of the molecular changes at synaptic connections that were modified during the day's learning. Without the specific conditions of deep sleep, the slow oscillations, the sleep spindles, the coordinated hippocampal cortical dialogue, these synaptic changes can fade. The metaphor of writing an important message and then needing to let the ink dry is imperfect but evocative. The learning of the day is written in wet ink. Sleep is when it dries. A complementary theory of sleep's role in memory, called the synaptic homeostasis hypothesis, proposes that deep sleep serves not only to strengthen important synapses, but to weaken unimportant ones, effectively pruning the day's neural growth back to a sustainable baseline. According to this view, the slow oscillations of deep sleep drive a broad, non-selective weakening of synaptic strength across the cortex, resetting the signal-to-noise ratio and making the brain more receptive to new learning the next day. This theory predicts that animals deprived of sleep will show runaway synaptic strengthening, essentially an overloaded network. And indeed, animal models have provided supporting evidence. Sleep may clear the slate as much as it consolidates what has been written on it. The brain regions that are most active during wakefulness show the greatest slow-wave activity during subsequent sleep, a phenomenon called use-dependent slow-wave sleep. If one hand is used more than the other during a day of learning tasks, the hemisphere of the brain, contralateral to that hand, shows enhanced slow-wave activity on the subsequent sleep recording over its sensoromotor regions. This local, experience-dependent enhancement of slow-wave sleep is believed to reflect the brain prioritizing the repair and consolidation of the circuits most heavily used during the day. The deepest sleep occurs precisely where the brain has worked hardest. The quality of slow-wave sleep across mid-adulthood has been proposed as a potential influence on later cognitive health. Research has found that sleep irregularity, measured across multiple nights as variability in sleep duration and timing, was associated with greater accumulation of certain proteins in the brain linked to neurodegeneration. In cognitively healthy older adults, these findings align with a growing body of evidence suggesting that the relationship between sleep and brain health may extend across years and decades. The nightly, slow-wave sleep of a person in their 40s and 50s may be quietly tending to the brain they will live in at 75. And so, 3/4 of the way through our journey, the answer to tonight's question has become something larger than its original asking. What makes you sink into deep sleep? The accumulating pressure of adenosine, the withdrawal of the circadian alerting signal, the cooling of the body, the melatonin rising, the VLPO growing active, the thalamus gating, the cortex synchronizing into those slow, rolling waves. But beneath all of this, a deeper truth. Every system in your body is designed not merely to tolerate sleep, but to require it, to call for it, to optimize it, to protect it, and to use it for work that cannot happen any other way. Your body sinks into deep sleep because your body is built for it. Every cell, every circuit, every oscillating neuron, you were made for this. You might be feeling heavy now. That is perfectly fine. Sleep does not come when you try to sleep. It comes when you stop trying. This is exactly that moment. The trying is over. Let every breath carry you a little further from the need to understand, to remember, to do anything at all. Your body knows where to go from here. We're almost there now. Slow-wave sleep is the time when your kidneys slow their filtration rate, conserving water through the night. The body does not waste the stillness of deep sleep. Every system finds its nighttime rhythm, its quieter pace, its own version of the same slow wave. The corneas of the eyes receive oxygen directly from the air, since they have no blood supply during sleep. When the eyes are closed, this oxygen exchange slows. The body compensates by reducing corneal metabolic demands during sleep. Even the eyes rest differently than the rest of you. Every part is included in the quiet. The soft tissues of the upper airway relax during deep sleep, which is why sleep apnea, the intermittent narrowing of the airway during sleep, is most disruptive during slow-wave sleep. And REM, the muscle tone that holds the airway open while awake, is naturally reduced during sleep. For most people, airway, anatomy, and remaining reflex activity manage this effortlessly. The body navigates the relaxation with care. Brain cells called oligodendrocytes, which wrap nerve fibers in myelin, the insulating sheath that speeds neural signals, appear to be especially active during slow-wave sleep. Animal studies have found that oligodendrocyte precursor cells divide more rapidly during sleep than during wakefulness, suggesting that the formation and repair of myelin may be preferentially a nocturnal process. The wiring of the brain is maintained in the dark. The slow oscillations of deep sleep travel across the cortex in a consistent direction, generally front to back. From the frontal lobes toward the occipital and parietal regions, this directional propagation is not random. Researchers believe it reflects the underlying connectivity of the cortex. With the waves following the highways of neural communication, the sleeping brain is moving. In its own slow and rolling way, some scientists have proposed that deep sleep serves as a form of neural maintenance at the most fundamental level, supporting the repair of DNA damage accumulated in neurons during the day. Research in animal models found elevated DNA damage markers in neurons during wakefulness, with repair processes occurring more readily during slow wave-like sleep states. The idea that sleep may be when neurons tend to their own genetic material adds another quiet layer to the answer of what the body is doing in the dark. The hormones of the hypothalamic pituitary axis, the hormonal command center of the body, are regulated in complex and interconnected ways. During deep sleep, thyroid-stimulating hormone peaks in the early night. Near the first deep sleep period, prolactin rises during slow-wave sleep. The suppression of cortisol during deep sleep allows the restorative hormones to act without their primary antagonist. The body's chemistry is reorganized every night, and you do not have to think about any of it. There is a kind of stillness during slow-wave sleep that those woken from it often describe as having been nowhere, not dreaming, not waiting, not aware of time passing. This is not the stillness of emptiness. It is the stillness of a system fully occupied with its own repair. The absence of narrative experience during deep sleep may be one of the most purely restorative things about it. For a few hours each night, the story of you pauses, and the biology of you continues. The cerebellum, the brain region involved in coordination and balance, also shows altered activity during sleep. Though its slow wave patterns differ from those in the cortex, research has suggested the cerebellum may be involved in procedural memory consolidation during sleep, the kind of memory that underlies learned physical skills. A musician who practices a passage during the day may find it more fluent the following session. The cerebellum, it seems, has been quietly rehearsing in the night. Your skin barrier, the outermost layer of the skin, responsible for keeping water in and irritants out, regenerates most actively during the nighttime hours. Transepidermal water loss is lower at night. The skin's pH is slightly more acidic at night, supporting the growth of beneficial bacteria and the activity of skin-repairing enzymes. The nighttime environment the body creates for itself. Low cortisol, eye growth hormone, reduced core temperature, increased blood flow to the periphery, is precisely the environment the skin needs to repair and renew. Deep sleep extends all the way out to the surface. The experience of sleeping and waking is not instantaneous. The transition from slow-wave sleep to wakefulness takes time, and the brain does not re-engage its full complexity all at once. The prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for executive function, decision-making, and self-awareness, is among the last to reach full waking activity. This is why complex decisions made immediately upon waking from deep sleep are often less reliable than those made after 15 or 20 minutes of gentle wakefulness. The sleeping brain is generous with its rest. It does not release you from it all at once. The ability to generate robust, slow-wave sleep can be supported over time by consistent sleep habits. People who maintain regular sleep and wake times show more consistent and more consolidated slow-wave sleep periods than those with irregular schedules. The brain, given consistent environmental cues, learns when to deepen and when to lighten, building the architecture of the night with increasing ease. Good sleep, practiced regularly, tends to become better sleep. The body responds to the invitation. Some people experience a phenomenon called confusional arousal, emerging from deep sleep into a state of partial wakefulness in which they are moving, speaking, or acting, but not fully conscious. These events are benign manifestations of the incomplete awakening from slow-wave sleep. The brain has partially surfaced, but the deepest layers are still in slow-wave territory. These states are most common in children, whose slow-wave sleep is more intense than in adults, and in those following sleep deprivation, when the rebound of slow-wave sleep can be particularly dense and gentle to emerge from in the weeks following a significant emotional experience, grief, loss, or profound joy. The content and architecture of sleep changes. Slow-wave sleep may initially be disrupted by the arousal associated with intense emotion, then may show a gradual return as the body finds its footing again. Some researchers describe the months of altered sleep following a profound life change as the brain's way of slowly metabolizing experience too large to be processed in ordinary nightly cycles. The body takes as long as it needs. The work of deep sleep is patient. So could this quiet science of deep sleep change how you see the night? It already has. Perhaps what you are resting in tonight is not simply absence of waking. It is the active product of hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Every slow wave your brain will generate in the next few hours has been refined across the history of life on Earth. Every pulse of cerebrospinal fluid, every growth hormone molecule, every memory being quietly filed. These are not accidents. They are the outcome of the most patient design process imaginable. The early morning hours, roughly 3 to 5 in the morning, for those sleeping at conventional times, are when core body temperature reaches its lowest point. This is also when the threshold for slow-wave sleep is highest, meaning the brain is most resistant to external arousal during this window. If you have ever woken at 4 in the morning, feeling that the world is unreachably far away, and then fallen back into an unusually deep sleep, you have felt this biology directly. Slow-wave sleep appears to contribute to the quality of emotional attunement in relationships. Though the research is still developing, studies using daily sleep diaries and relationship measures have found that nights of poorer sleep quality are followed by higher interpersonal friction and reduced accuracy in reading another person's emotional state. Deep sleep, through its role in emotional regulation and social cognition, may be one of the quiet foundations of the connections that make life feel meaningful. The light of the full moon has been found, in a carefully controlled sleep laboratory study, to be associated with shorter slow-wave sleep duration and longer sleep onset, even in subjects sleeping in windowless rooms with no direct exposure to moonlight. The researchers proposed that the circadian system may have been historically calibrated to the lunar cycle, with the brightness of the full moon representing an evolved cue for lighter, more vigilant sleep. Whether this effect is a genuine evolutionary remnant or a statistical artifact remains a matter of scientific discussion, but the idea that the moon's rhythm may be written somewhere in the biology of sleep is quietly beautiful. The experience of sleeping in a new place, a hotel room, a friend's house, anywhere unfamiliar, often produces what sleep researchers call the first night effect. On the first night in an unfamiliar environment, one hemisphere of the brain maintains slightly lighter sleep than the other, keeping a kind of watch while the rest of the brain rests. Slow-wave sleep on the first night in a new place is measurably shallower on the more alert hemisphere. By the second night, the brain has assessed the environment as safe, and slow-wave sleep returns to its full bilateral depth. The body will not go all the way down until it trusts where it is. What makes you sink into deep sleep? Then, the final answer, as plain and as vast as we can make it, is this: your body has been preparing you for it since the moment you woke. Every hour of wakefulness built the pressure that now releases. Every dimming of the light gave permission that your cells have been waiting for. Every breath you have taken today was, in part, preparing for the breath you are taking now. Slower, deeper, quieter. The descent into deep sleep is not an ending, it is the most fundamental kind of beginning. The night does its best work in the dark, and so do you. And so, our quiet journey through the science of deep sleep comes gently to a close. We began with a question: what makes you sink? And we found an answer made of layers. We moved from adenosine and temperature, through the slow rolling waves of the synchronized cortex, through the cerebrospinal fluid moving in, quiet pulses, through the brain's cleaning pathways, through the immunological and metabolic and emotional work that only this particular darkness can do. We found, at fact 75, that deep sleep is not merely something the body tolerates, it is something the body has been elaborately designed to do, and we arrived, somewhere near fact 90, at the quieter recognition that the night is not empty. It is full of work we cannot see and do not need to supervise. What deep sleep reminds us is that the most important processes are often the ones we are not awake to witness. Much of the repair, the consolidation, the renewal, it happens in silence, in the body's own language, without our narration or our effort. The body does not need us to be conscious in order to do its best work. Sometimes it needs us to be exactly the opposite. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can. Think about unity. The unity of every oscillating neuron, every slow wave, every cell membrane doing its quiet work right now. You are not a person trying to sleep. You are a system completing itself, a cycle returning to its beginning, a wave reaching its lowest point before the next rise. Let your entire being dissolve into the slow, dark warmth of this moment, into the stillness that your body has been building toward all day. No edges left, no watching, only the gentle, complete, biological permission to rest. Prepare for deep sleep now. No boundaries left, only peace. And if tonight's journey helped quiet your thoughts, or carried you into the rest your body was asking for, a soft share with someone else who needs this, a gentle like, a quiet subscribe, might bring one more sleepy soul into this space, one peaceful night, one sleepy soul at a time. But there's no need to do anything now, nothing at all. You've traveled far tonight, not across miles, but across the entire interior of what it means to rest. You can allow these thoughts of deep sleep to fade now, like the last light at the edge of evening, leaving only the warm, unheld calm behind. Let your breathing deepen Let your body feel heavier, as if a slow and patient gravity has found you here, not pulling you down, but simply holding you, the way the earth holds everything that rests upon it, without effort, without question. If sleep comes, let it carry you the way a slow wave carries, not rushing, not falling, but arriving into a realm where time and weight no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, the slow oscillations will return. The glymphatic system will begin its work again. The adenosine will start its patient accumulation anew. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, sleepy soul, and remember, your body knows exactly how to do this. It has always known. Good night.